Hello and welcome back to the Bookshelf Odyssey. My name is Art, and I am going to be talking about A Christmas Carol again today and talking about why I think it's such a timeless classic. Again, I host the Bookshelf Odyssey podcast, this YouTube channel, and a Cozy Christmas podcast, and I'm kind of throwing it all together here to talk about one of my favorite books. Before I get any farther, though, I think I'm missing something here. There we go. That's better. I mean, you can't talk about A Christmas Carol without having your Santa hat on, right? All right, so let's talk about why this is such a timeless classic. I had a few ideas, and of course, this isn't exhaustive, and I would love to hear your comments below. If you want to add to this conversation, I certainly welcome it. But for me, why this classic continues to resonate with me is first of all, it's beautiful writing. Some of the passages Dickens writes are just so perfect, so wonderful. Here, I'm going to move my microphone up just a little bit. So you get beautiful passages like this. Here it says, Scrooge took his melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern. Having read all the newspapers and beguiled the rest of the evening with his banker's book, went home to bed. He lived in chambers which had once belonged to his deceased partner. They were a gloomy suite of rooms in a lowering pile of building up a yard, where it had so little business to be, that one could scarcely help fancying it must have run there when it was a young house, playing at hide-and-seek with other houses, and have forgotten the way out again. It was old enough now and dreary enough, for nobody lived in it but Scrooge, the other rooms being all let out as offices. The yard was so dark that even Scrooge, who knew its every stone, was fain to grope with his hands. The fog and frost so hung about the black old gateway of the house that it seemed as if the genius of the weather sat in mournful meditation on the threshold. Now, it is a fact that there was nothing at all particular about the knocker on the door, except that it was very large. It is also a fact that Scrooge had seen it night and morning during his whole residence in that place. And then, it goes on. I just want to read the whole thing. It's building that tension slowly. You get so much descriptiveness about what Scrooge's house is like, and you just want to keep reading. Oh, it's so beautiful. So it has, beautiful, powerful writing. The scene with the two young children, ignorance and want. I mean, that's just a gut blow, which really brings me to my second reason, because of the powerful themes in the book of child poverty, of neglect, of abuse, of cruelty versus kindness. These are themes that we connect with powerfully, so especially at Christmas time. There were relevant topics, again, like I said, child labor being one of them, the problem with the poor being another. You get these brilliant, larger-than-life characters like Scrooge, the ghost of Christmas Present, even Marley as a ghost. He's just wonderful, wonderful characters. I can't think of one that I would I try to think of my favorite. Of course, there's Scrooge, but there's so many good characters that it's hard to pick. But I love his descriptions of Scrooge. Let me go ahead and read this, famous passage of Scrooge's description, and watch how, as Dickens describes who Scrooge is, you even as I read it, I can't help but become Scrooge as I'm reading. And others have said the same when they narrate it or perform it, is that as soon as you're done with this description, you're in character. It says, "Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. Hard and sharp as flint, from which no steel had ever struck out generous fire. Secret and self-contained and solitary as an oyster. The cold within him froze his old features, nipped his pointed nose, shriveled his cheek, stiffened his gait, made his eyes red, his thin lips blue, and spoke out shrewdly in his grating voice. A frosty rim was on his head, and on his eyebrows and his wiry chin. He carried his own low temperature always about with him. He iced his office in the dog days and didn't thaw it 1 degree at Christmas. So, you can see when you perform it, just read his descriptions and you can't help but speak with your grating voice. And then, it's equally part cozy and scary, heartwarming, sentimental, thought-provoking, all those things, so much more. If you'd be interested in hearing me read the story, I did record it for my podcast. I believe it was last year. I'll make sure to link those in the show notes if you'd like to. I'm hoping I'll re-record it again someday. There are a few things I would change and do differently, but overall, it was just such a fun experience. So that's why I think A Christmas Carol is such a timeless classic. Let me know below what you think and what you would add to this conversation. And until next time, God bless us, everyone. Take care.